Hello Nidorinas and Nidorinos, I'm KingNido, and today it is the Pastoria Hydros going up against the Petalburg Razors, and as these two sides have a look at their opening hands, let's have a look at this tale of the tape, because these are the only two sides to have made it to a Champions game and suffered that unfortunate defeat, but the Hydros are currently on top of the leaderboard, and they want to break away back into Victory Road and make that Champions game and make their redemption, whereas for the Razors, they're currently sitting outside the top 5, and they want to return after just falling short last season. But with all that said, let us know in the comments below who you think's going to win this matchup. Will it be the water decks? Will it be the colorless decks? Let's go!
3, 2, 1, go!
And starting off this match, it is that Ruins of Hope deck from the Pastoria Hydros. They've got the Poplio and they've also got the Tapu Fini in hand. They do move the Poplio into the active spot, Tapu Fini on the bench. It's the Imperial Command deck of the Petalburg Razors. Now they've only got their Apom, so that is the Pokemon going into their active spot, and they do not want to lose a game by having an empty bench, as it is the first to get 3 battle points. The Pokeball being pulled for the Hydros. They are going to get the Carvanha, and they've already got the Sharpedo and a Brion in hand, plus that Lily in case they are successful in getting the Primarina online, and we've seen what that's capable of this season, as the Greedent is pulled for the Petalburg Razors, so not a basic Pokemon, but the double hit from Apom, 2 coin flips, 20 for each heads, they get 1. And they get 2, they're going to get 40 damage onto the Poplio here. This is a fantastic start for the Razors, because this is actually putting pressure on the Poplio, as they do pull their second one as well. And Brion does require 2 energy, so it won't be able to go on the offensive. So this will buy the Apom a little bit of time as the second Poplio comes online. So does Sharpedo, with Lily being the only remaining card in the hands of the Hydros. They get a first energy onto the Brion, but that is all they can do, so they send it back over to the Razors, who do pull the Lillipup, and they've already got the Herdier and the Stoutland in hand, but they've also got that rare candy, so they can skip the Herdier evolution and go straight to Stoutland. As they're going for another double hit, they get 1 heads, they get 2 again, another 40 damage onto the Brion. This is great for the Razors, as this has bought them that time to get that Lillipup online. The second Sharpedo has been pulled for the Hydros. They are going to get that second energy onto the Brion, who does do 40 damage, so it is going to bring Apom down to only 20 health remaining. But as we said earlier on, both these sides have made it to the Champions game, and unfortunately neither of them were successful, both feeling that heartbreak, as the Squovit has been pulled for the Razors. They immediately get that onto the bench. Now they've got all the Pokemon they need to get those evolutions online. They've got the Stoutland, they've got the Greedent. They do want the Ambipom if they want to evolve the Apom, but they're actually going to retreat the Apom here, moving the Lillipup into the active spot. They're going to play the rare candy, and they are getting this Stoutland online. It only needs 1 more energy for this Sharp Fang that does 70 damage, but it's also got that Guard Dog Visage, so the opposing Pokemon are going to require an additional energy to go on the offensive, and it wasn't looking good for this Imperial Command deck at the start, but they have taken the first battle point in game 1, and this is a 3-game series where for each game you win, you get 2 victory points, so even that third game is crucial to our leaderboard. The rare candy being pulled for the Hydros here. They've got the Sharpedo in the active spot. They're thinking of getting the energy onto the Poplio. They contemplated the Tapu Fini, but they have gone with the Poplio there. They are going to send it back over to the Razors, who do pull their second Greedent. They've got the big Malasada in hand. Greedent with that enhanced Fang, it does require 3 energy, and if it has a Pokemon tool attached to it, it does an additional 50 damage. That Sharp Fang gets another 70 damage, this time onto the Sharpedo, and it comes back to the Hydros, who do pull their own Pokemon tool, being the Poison Barb that has been crucial in Season A3 of the PokeType League, as it is attached to Sharpedo here, so they're trying to make the Razors reluctant to go on the offensive with the Stoutland, but 1 Sharp Fang and Sharpedo will be discarded from this match. A second energy onto the Poplio, and the rare candy being pulled for the Razors. We've already seen the effects of that as a second energy onto the Greedent, and the Sharp Fang does discard Sharpedo from the board, but not before that Poison Barb is going to leave Stoutland with that poison status condition. The Razors are in full control. They are 1 battle point away from taking game 1 over the Hydros, and it is the Hydros who are currently on top of the leaderboard. They have had a fantastic season so far. The Razors currently sitting in 8th place. They need to get into that top 5. They made it into Victory Road last season. They made the Champions game last time around, whereas for the Hydros, they made our inaugural Champions game, but like we said, both teams suffering immense hard heartache that those defeats surely run true in the memory of both these sides. It is Poplio being retreated. They move the Tapu Fini into the active spot. Now Tapu Fini requires 3 energy plus the additional one because of Stoutland there. Their AMB Palm is online after being pulled, and Greedent gets its 3rd energy, a Sharp Fang. Tapu Fini being brought down to 30 health. That Poison is still chipping away at Stoutland here. The Hydros are not looking good at the moment. They've just pulled their leftovers on the previous turn. They've pulled the Carvana now. And they are going to get that 3rd energy on to the Poplio. They look like they're trying to retreat the Tapu Fini. They can't though. There is no energy on that Pokemon. They may have just made an error here. They might have wanted to get a little bit of damage off, but this is fantastic for the Razors. They have not dropped a battle point yet, and they will surely not. They attached the leftovers. They just pulled to the Greedent, moving it into the active spot. Normally teams will go straight for the win, but they want to maximize that damage because that too does count towards the leaderboard. And with that enhanced Fang, the Razors are going to take the win here in game 1 with this Imperial Command deck over the Ruins of Hope deck. And as we have our first table reset, if you're enjoying what you're seeing, please leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the action in the PokeType League TCG. And it will be the Razors going first, this time with their Verdant Cavern deck, and we can see the Yungoos in hand. They've already got the Gumshoes ready to go if they need to. It is the Vanillite and the Alolan Vulpix in hand for that Luminous Frost deck of the Hydros, and they're going to move the Vanillite into the active spot. Vulpix on the bench. They've got the Vanillish in hand as well, ready to evolve the Vanillite at their earliest opportunity. Now those evolutions cannot happen on the first turn for either team as the Poison Barb is pulled for the Razors. We saw the effects of this in game 1. They're immediately going to get that on to the Yungoos. They want to make the Hydros reluctant to go for that Sweets Relay that does become more powerful if hit on consecutive turns, and it's already the Vanilluxe being pulled as well for the Hydros. Now this Sweets Relay does do 10 damage the first time. If it's done in the next turn, it will do an additional 20, but it also works the same for Vanillish. It actually gets powered up if it's done on the previous turn, but it is going to be that Poisoning coming into play onto the Vanillite as well. The big Malasada being pulled for the Razors. Now they can get Gumshoes online, but if they do, it will require an additional energy, so it can't actually go on the offensive this turn because they are going to move it into the active spot. They play the big Malasada again. They've got no bench either, so if they do lose Gumshoes, they will lose the game immediately. And it will come back over to the Hydros, who pulled the Alolan Sandslash. They've got the Vanillish here. That Sweets Relay does 30 from Vanillish. Does an additional 20 as well. They can get the Vanillux online. It only requires 1 more energy. It is 2 coin flips, so for each one it does do 80 damage. They can play the Rare Candy. They've got it in hand. They're thinking about how they want to approach this. Do they want to take the risk? They're going with the Rare Candy, so they are bringing that Vanillux online. They're going for the double spin. 80 damage for each heads they flip. They get 2 opportunities. This could do 160 damage. They could win game 2 right here. They get the chance to go for the coin flip. Here we go. They get 1. They only get 1. This buys the Razors a bit of time. That was a crucial coin flip because now Gumshoes has 20 health remaining, but it is Vanillux that has to contend with the Poisoning. They've got the Lily in hand, who can restore up to 60 health from a stage 2 Pokemon that Vanillux is. Stuffle being pulled for the Razors. They've already got a Beware in hand, and they move Stuffle onto the bench. They are going to get a second energy here onto the Gumshoes. They're willing to let it be discarded, but not before they're going to get that 50 damage onto the Vanillux, bringing it down to 60 health. The Poisoning doing the additional 10, coming back over to the Hydros. They've pulled the Alolan Sandshrew. They pulled the Alolan Sandslash on the previous turn. Alolan Sandslash only requires 1 energy as they play the Lily, restoring that 60 health for Vanillux. They just need 1 head flip. They're not going to go. They could have gone with the retreat of the Vanillux as well to guarantee that discard with the Sandshrew, but they get the heads on the first one. They get it on the second one as well. 160 damage. I'm sure they're wishing they got that on the previous turn to get them that win quickly and efficiently, but regardless, they have taken the first battle point here in game 2. It is going to be the Stuffle being moved into the active spot, and again, the Razors have got an empty bench. The Stuffle only has 70 health, I almost said 50 health, as they pull the Oranguru. Both these Pokemon, the Hammerin doing 60 damage from a Stuffle, the Hammerin doing 70 damage from a Oranguru. They both require 3 energy each, and they're going to get the Beware online as well. Now it does have a 3 energy retreat cost. It has a 4 energy requirement for that Tantrum that does leave itself confused, but it does do 130 damage. Instead, they're going to set up the Oranguru. Now they've also got the Ilima in hand. Now if one of their colorless Pokemon has damage on it, they can bring it back into their hand if they play the Illimer supporter card. It is the Sandslash coming online, a second energy for the Vulpix and the leftovers on the Vanilluxe, who can restore 10 health at the end of every turn of the Hydros. They're going with the coin flips again. They get a Tails on the first one, they get a Heads on the second, so they do get that 80 damage onto the Beware. They would have wanted to get it discarded because, unbeknownst to the Hydros, there is that Illimer in hand for the Razors. And there's the leftovers being offset by the poisoning, the second Stuffle being pulled for the Razors as well. And they immediately move that second Stuffle onto the bench. The Oranguru getting its second of 3 required energy. They've still got the Beware in the active spot, and it looks like they're not going to play the Illimer. They do not want to risk the Oranguru potentially taking damage, as it's the only Pokemon they have with energy on it at the moment. This is great for the Hydros, because with that double spin, they just need to get one head flip to get Beware discarded from the board. They get an energy onto the Alolan Sandslash. They're going for the double spin. They've been able to get one every time. They get a Tails. They get 2 Tails. Oh my, the commentator's curse has come into play. That is totally not on me, I'm sure. But the Vanilluxe is going to be offsetting that poisoning with the leftovers, but Beware has had an opportunity to stay in this game. This is great for the Razors as they pull their second Beware. It is the super powered Hug Beware, but the Illimer is being played. They're going to bring the Beware and the Stuffle back into hand. It is Oranguru being moved into the active spot with that hammer, and it does 70 damage to the Vanilluxe, and Vanilluxe has still got that poison status condition. The Razors getting the coin flip they needed to keep this game from being run away by the Luminous Frost deck, as now it is going to be Vanilluxe discarded thanks to that poisoning. The Hydros, they are going to move the Alolan Sandslash into the active spot. That Spike Armor does 20 damage. They've just pulled the Alolan Ninetales though, who does require 1 more energy. It does do 60 damage, but it also does 20 damage to the benched Pokemon. And they're going to retreat the Sandslash. They want to go on the offensive with the Ninetales. Sandslash only does 20 damage, but if it takes damage in the next turn from the opposing Pokemon, it delivers 40 damage back at them, as the Professor's research is pulled for the Razors after Ninetales did damage to all Pokemon on the side of the Razors. They get their second Yungoos, and they get the second Delcatty in hand. They've had that first Delcatty since the start of this game, but no Skitty in hand. They get a first energy on to one of their 2 Stuffle. It is the Ram Stuffle, is 70 damage onto the Ninetales. And it is the second Alolan Ninetales being pulled for the Hydros. They get an energy back onto the Alolan Sandslash. They are setting up for another Blizzard, and Oranguru is discarded from the board. The Stuffles have 30 health remaining each, and the Hydros are 1 point away from taking game 2. They're thinking about how they want to approach this. It will be the Ram Stuffle, who does require 1 more energy. It can do 40 damage. Ninetales only has 40 health remaining. They've just pulled the Skitty. They've got the 2 Bewares in hand, who do require additional energy, and they're going with the Ram. They're going to use the Stuffle to get the Ninetales off the board. The Alolan Sandslash cannot do enough damage to take the Stuffle down. That Spike Armor only does 20 damage. It is going to be the second Alolan Sandslash being pulled for the Hydros. They've got their second Sandshrew moving on to the bench in preparation, getting its first and only required energy. The Spike Armor onto the Stuffle. Stuffle will have 10 health remaining. The next point is going to take game 2. The Razors trying to take this series. The Hydros want to ensure that it is decided in game 3. The Pokeball is pulled and played by the Razors. They get their Primates Trap Oranguru being pulled from their deck. Does require 2 energy to do that 40 damage. They've got their super powered Hug Beware, who does require 1 more energy, but it's a 2 coin flip. They need to get heads on both of them, but will instantly win them the game. That could be crucial. They're going for the win here with the Beware. They need to flip 2 heads. They get a Tails on the first one and the second one, so the Hydros are bought a little bit of time. And as that super powered Hug doesn't actually do any damage, it just discards the opposing Pokemon. It would not take recoil damage from the Spike Armor. As the second Vanilluxe is pulled, the Spike Armor continues for 20 damage on the Beware. It is going to come back to the Razors. They do pull the Gumshoes here. They've got that second Yungoos. They've also got the Oranguru. They do move that onto the bench. They've got the second Beware, but Stuffle doesn't have any energy on it at this stage. And they're going for another super powered Hug. They get 1 head, and they get 2, it is going to be the coin flips. The Razors have locked up this series, taking down the top of the leaderboard Hydros with their Verdant Cavern deck over the Luminous Frost deck. And as we have our final table reset, the Hydros are just playing for 2 victory points now. The Razors are trying for the clean sweep, and they will be going first, and they are going to be using that Awakened Heroes deck. We can see the Kamala and the Celesteela in hand. The Kamala going into the active spot. They've already got the big Malasada, that is very useful. Celesteela on the bench. The Hydros moving the Shoulder into the active spot. They've already got their Cloister in hand, but here we go, game 3. The Razors looking for the clean sweep. The Hydros trying to avoid it. But the Razors showing they are still for real this season, taking it to the top of the board. Hydros, who have been impressive all season long. It is the second Celesteela pulled for the Razors. It is the Shoulder getting its first energy, as this Brooklet Hill deck did just pull their second Cloister. The Tackle doing 10 damage to Kamala. Kamala with that Comatose ability as well. When it does receive an energy, it immediately falls asleep. That big Malasada is crucial in that, but it won't be any good to it now because it still requires 1 more energy for that Rolling Tackle. The Razors are going to finish their turn. They get the checkup, and it is still going to be asleep as they do flip the tails, coming back over to the Hydros. It is the Araquanid being pulled. They need a second basic Pokemon, but they are going to get the Cloister with the Guard Press online. It does do 50 damage, but it reduces the damage it takes in the next turn by 20. So they get that 50 damage there onto the Kamala. As we mentioned, it will take less damage, and another checkup on that sleeping Kamala. And this time they still get the tails, but regardless, even if they attach the energy, it would remain asleep as the Lusamine is pulled for the Razors. They did pull the Silvally on the previous turn. They get a second energy on a Kamala, who's already asleep, but now it's even more asleep, it would seem. The big Malasada, however, will restore 10 health, and it will wake up Kamala, so it can get 70 damage onto the Cloister. Keep in mind, they've just put their second Celesteela onto the bench as well. They've got the Lusamine. That supporter card does allow them to get 2 energy that have been discarded from their discard zone and put them onto an Ultra Beast, which is what Celesteela is. Coming back over to the Hydros, they get their Dewpider, who they are going to get onto the bench. This means they'll be able to get the Araquanid online shortly, but another Guard Press and Kamala is discarded from the board. The Hydros, the Brooklet Hill deck, taking the first point here in game 3. Razors do have their 2 Celesteelas, so they are going to move one of them into the active spot. They've also got the Guzma. As they pull the leftovers, they've got the Beastite as well. The Beastite does allow that Moonbathon to do an additional 10 damage for each point that the Razors have taken, but they play the Lusamine 2 energy onto the Celesteela. It gets a second one from, a third one from the energy zone. They need to flip aheads with this Moonbathon, otherwise it will do nothing, and they get it. 100 damage. It will be brought down by 20, so still 80 is enough to take the Cloister off the board. These coin flips are paying off great for the Razors, as we saw with that Beware in game 2. The Dewpider being moved into the active spot, the Poison Barb as well being pulled for the Hydros. Araquanid coming online has 110 health. Those Dangerous Claws need 2 more energy. They get the Poison Barb onto it as well, again wanting to make the Razors reluctant to go on the offensive. They still need to get 1 more energy after attaching one from the energy zone, and they are going to end their turn. It comes back over to the Razors, who do pull their Professor's Research. They play that immediately. They can get an additional 2 cards from their deck. They get the Type Null. They get the Gladion. Those supporter cards crucial to the Sableye in this Awakened Heroes deck. They get a first energy onto the Celesteela. And they're going to play the Beastite. As we mentioned, it allows that Moonbathon to do an additional 10 damage. If they get the head flips, Araquanid will be discarded from the board. They're going for the win. And they get the clean sweep. The Petalburg Razors with a massive win over the Pastoria Hydros. The Awakened Heroes deck taking down the Brooklet Hill deck to ensure that clean sweep for the Razors. Now we know the Hydros, they will still be on top of the leaderboard, but the Razors have jumped from 8th all the way up to 2nd. That is how close the leaderboard is, and next round they are going up against the Mellow Rumbles, whereas for the Hydros, they will be going up against the Levere Constrictors. But until then, Nidorinos, thank you so much for watching. Let us know in the comments below what cards you pulled today. And if you enjoyed what you saw, please leave a like, share, subscribe, but more importantly, always remember, send thanks, and I'll see you when you see me.